This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Stick around to the end of the video for a special offer they're making available through my channel. Okay, so to understand Battletoads 2020, you need to understand not only the original Battletoads, but the memes it birthed many years after its release. Trust me, it'll be totally worth it. Battletoads was released on the Nintendo Entertainment System way back in 1991. It was made by Rare, the studio who was before that time making video game adaptations of game shows like Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune and Hollywood Squares. Inspired by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Rare said to themselves, well, sharks are taken, and so are cats, I guess. How about toads? And with that, Battletoads was born. Battletoads was one of the defining side-scrollers of the 8-bit era. It featured cutting-edge graphics, snappy gameplay, and a wide variety of gameplay ranging from beat-em-up to platforming to racing. And to top it all off, it was really hard. It was like the Dark Souls of Toad games. Battletoads was a runaway success, so much so that it gave Rare a fat stack of cash with which to gamble their future. They decided to step away from their shovelware approach to development, choosing instead to invest in their technology and focus on quality over quantity. A pitch they'd later make to Nintendo was so successful that Nintendo ended up buying 49% of them and entrusting them with one of their most beloved characters. From the success of Battletoads, Donkey Kong Country was born. So Battletoads is a big deal, right? I mean, they even had an animated series based on it where for some reason the Toads were actually high school kids who kind of got tricked into becoming Toads.
Dave, you're a toad.
There were sequels, of course, but the last official Battletoads game was an arcade cabinet release in 1994 that bombed so hard that its console ports were cancelled. Fans weren't able to play this again until 2015 when the Rare Replay Collection was released, where it received very favourable reviews. The years between 1994 and 2015 were not wasted, however. 4chan, having absolutely nothing better to do, seized upon the memory of this beloved game and decided to do what 4chan does best: fuck people's shit up. They thought it would be really funny to start calling Gamestop stores and asking for copies of the game. Some of the staff took it in good humor. Some of them did not.
My son went down there and looked for a game called Battletoads, and you didn't have it, and I'm wondering why you're shooting the whoop for him.
I'm gonna take this Battletoads and shove it so far up your fucking ass, buddy. I don't have time for this fucking bullshit.
A movement was building, calling for the Battletoads to get a proper sequel. With Rare and Nintendo unwilling to come to the party, fans had to take matters into their own hands.
Battletoads is back and better than ever. With next generation 3D graphics and smoking in-your-face gameplay.
There was even a movie trailer made for some reason.
Three old friends.
Fast forward to E3 2019, Xbox flashes up the logo, the crowd goes wild, they're back, it reads. Oh baby, this was it, 4chan won yet again, and then it hits the gameplay. Suffice it to say, fans were not happy with this. Scrolling through YouTube's search results, it's difficult to find a new Battletoads video that isn't deep in the red zone of the dislike bar. People really hated this reveal, principally because the art style is so garish and cartoony compared to before. I mean, obviously an 8-bit side-scroller based on fighting toads was never meant to be taken too seriously, but the original had a sort of edginess to it that the Battletoads in 2020 just seems to completely not have at all. This is essentially a Nickelodeon cartoon, but with Battletoads, so people came to this game really ready to hate it. I have now finished this whole game. I have finished it in a single sitting since it's only about 5 hours long. I'm here to tell you that I really like this game. I really had a great time with it. It was a genuine surprise to me just how much I enjoyed it. I feel bad for the developers, Delilah Studios, because a lot of people are going to write this off on the art style alone. Fair enough, but I think if you give it a shot, you're going to find a simple but enjoyable beat-em-up, a chilled out platformer, a demanding bullet hell shooter, some other game modes that are just ridiculous but super fun, and I think you're going to find a really funny Saturday morning cartoon that really works. I might be alone on this one, but I don't care. I absolutely recommend Battletoads 2020 to you. Alright, particulars first. Battletoads is coming to Xbox, Steam, and the Windows Store, lol. It's a first-party Microsoft title, which means it will be available on Game Pass on day one, which to be honest is probably the best way to enjoy it since it's only short. The game offers 3 different difficulties, with each difficulty increasing enemy health and damage output, and also slowing down respawn timers, making it harder for you to complete missions within the challenge timers. The game features 3-player co-op the entire way through, with a mix of 3 of you on screen and taking turns depending on the game mode you're playing. There is no matchmaking for co-op though, so be sure to bring a friend or 2. I played on the PC where I had absolutely flawless performance, not a single crash or single frame lost, no stuttering or graphical glitches, nothing. It was just absolutely perfect. That's as it should be though, because this game is far from a graphical powerhouse. We're talking about a highly stylized 2D art style with fairly flat textures and a deliberate lack of more advanced graphical features like particle effects or volumetric fog or, 3D. On the whole, I think the art style works. I know a lot of people don't like it and I get that, but I think they committed to something here and they saw it through all the way. Everything has a consistent hand-drawn quality to it. Every new space is bursting with personality and detail. Every new foe is distinct from the last and interesting to look at. They all have a unique presence, both from their visual presentation and the way they're animated. The biggest problem, however, is that these animations don't have enough frames built into them. With so little going on in the graphics department, there would have been enough headroom to fully animate every one of these characters or enemy animations, but the developers chose not to. Characters in particular seem like they're missing at least half of their animations, with movement and punching feeling rather stilted. It's not a big deal, obviously, but it's definitely something I noticed a lot while I was playing. It sort of cheapens the experience and makes combat feel a lot less satisfying than it otherwise might be. More broadly, combat is okay. Each of the Toads, Rash, Zit, and Pimple, have their own fighting style, which is basically a function of how fast or slow they are. They all feel quite distinct from one another, but that doesn't stop combat from feeling pretty one-dimensional. There's really just the heavy and light attacks, which you can sort of weave together for some awkward combos. There's some air juggle stuff that doesn't quite work since you knock your enemy off screen and then kind of have to guess when they're going to land. You hold your heavy attack to break shielded enemies, which is kind of annoying given how fast-paced the combat is. There's a dash button that gives you a few iframes, so combat is very much about staying light on your feet the whole time. It all works, but none of it is going to rock your socks off. Enemy and encounter design, though, is actually pretty damn good. Enemies have 1 or 2 attacks, and they're clearly telegraphed with both audio and visual cues. Through smart design, the developers combine these enemies in different ways to create more and more challenging scenarios. You know how the Doom devs talked about combat chess, where every enemy is a sort of piece on the board? It's the same here, and since each of those pieces is so well constructed, and because the developers know how to combine them, combat is always demanding. You never feel like you're just spamming buttons here, because you have to be so acutely aware of the enemies around you, constantly moving and responding to their attacks. The side-scroller stuff isn't the only game mode though. In fact, I'd say about half the game is other stuff, and I think it's actually in these other game modes that the game shines brightest. There are the 2D-inspired motorbike racing sections, which will test your reflexes. There's a side-scrolling racing segment where you have to press buttons corresponding to the surface you want to stick to, and trust me, this is really hard. There's also a few bullet hell sections, which are also really damn hard. And then there's these platforming sections, which are really easy. My favorite game mode was the ship repair minigame thing, where you and your co-op partners have to quickly solve puzzles to get systems back online. It can get pretty frantic. This range of game modes was one of the hallmarks of the original. It was one of the reasons that people loved Battletoads so much, so it's great that the developers have baked that in here as well. Difficulty is something I've mentioned earlier, and yeah, the game is hard. Not super hard, mind you. I mean, I could get through it, but some of the levels on some of the game modes, they really took some doing, and I was only playing at the middle difficulty. If you're worried that Battletoads had gone soft in 2020, then worry not, this game will likely kick your ass more than once. What I appreciated most about this difficulty though was how well designed it was and how well paced it was. Every challenge I encountered was hard because it was tightly tuned and full of interesting enemies, not because the developers just threw millions of enemies at me at once, or because they made every enemy an endless sack of hit points. And when it does get really tough, the game knows that, and it judiciously pumps the brakes afterwards, with a more relaxing gameplay section or cutscene to let you wipe down the sweat. And this is totally when we should talk about the cutscenes.
Hush! Shh! We're doing a thing. Oh! Sha sha sha. Ah! Sha sha sha. Did the Zune explode?
I told you not to kill its competition.
I thought it was the optimal media player.
Don't worry, they know we're impressive. We caught them.
Up yours! Ooh.
So when I first booted up this game, I saw the intro and I was like, I don't know about this. But then I pressed on and the Toads met up with the Dark Queen and they started sort of cracking out their one-liners, and I'll admit, I actually love these guys by the end. The fame-hungry Rash and the sensible Zit and the deeply sensitive Pimple are a solid comedy trio. I mean, it's not 30 Rock, it's not Rick and Morty, but it's funny. I mean, it's a good, cheeky Saturday morning cartoon, and it totally won me over in the end. I would go as far as to say that of all the things in this entire game, the cartoon segments were actually my favorite, which is kind of ironic given the Battletoads' earlier foray into animation.
It's an incoming teleportation.
Of all the impressions I take away from Battletoads, the one that stands out to me the most is that this felt like a legitimate, earnest effort to make a cool, fun, funny, diverse, interactive cartoon/video game that both pays tribute to the past and aims to create a new future for the franchise. It goes in a vastly different direction versus the source material, tonally and visually, but despite that, it does feel like homage. You can see it in the cast of characters, you can see it in the game design, which so closely mirrors many of the game modes from the original. You can see it in the difficulty tuning, which is absolutely punishing when it wants to be. Beyond this tribute to the classic past, the game is unafraid to push into some new territory. You can see it in the beautifully hand-drawn scenes and characters, in the newly added game modes, and in the cartoon segments, which plant a flag proudly and just go with it. It's so unafraid, so unbothered by what fans think this game should be. For many, that's going to piss them off, and they're going to think that Delilah Studios didn't show enough appreciation for the source material. I understand that. For me, I respect Delilah's courage, and I think they made a great game. And I think that if you have someone to play with, and you have a good sense of humor, and you've got a spare 5 hours to kill and a Game Pass subscription, you could do a hell of a lot worse than this. This video was brought to you by Squarespace, the best place to build a professional looking website for your hobby, business, or just because you feel like it. Let's say you want to have a career in video games or content creation. Having your own website would be a damn good start. You could use it to profile your own artwork if you were an artist. You could showcase your best writing there if that's your thing. Or if you wanted to be a games journalist or a commentator, you could start your own blog. With Squarespace, the process is always simple. Just choose from one of their many professional looking templates, update it using their intuitive tools, and voila, you've got yourself a very schmick looking website in no time. There's even more advanced features like the ability to schedule posts or traffic overview analytics so you can gain insights into where the clicks are coming from. To get started, visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to get serious, visit squarespace.com/skillup for a 10% discount on your first purchase of a website or a domain name. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.